Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. And howdy. All right. You've all been educated and doing well on that greeting. Thank you very much. We still are in need of one person to become a member of our board. We need a person that would manage the VP of publicity. We've got people who are willing to write the newsletter, send out the emails, someone who's willing to do the website, and also Facebook and other media. But we want someone that would be in charge of just keeping that all organized. So, is there anyone interested in joining the board? We've got a lot of fun people on the board and we have a good time. If not, you want to talk to either George or myself after the meeting. Appreciate it. Paper clips. How many picked up a blue paper clip? All right. So the history on paper clips, if you're unaware, is that in World War II, at the University of Oslo, Norway, the students, to demonstrate that they were a group organized to defend democracy and to rally against the fascists and the German invasion into Norway, they wore paper clips, which seems to have had a revitalization, and people are once again suggesting that we wear paper clips to show that we are against the Trump presidency and everything that goes with it. So we got some in the back. Wear them on your earrings, on your hat, on your shirt, wherever, to show that we are a group of people who are definitely against the Trump presidency. I hope you picked up a list of our upcoming events. Want to point out that next Saturday we have a No King rally. It will be at the corner once again of La Cañada and Esperanza. We hope to have a large group. But we will be at the corner once again of La Cañada and Esperanza. So join us next Saturday, 9 o'clock. Next Saturday, 9 o'clock.
If you want to go to another location, Amaro is having one at 10. They're all up and down the I-19, clear to Tucson. So you can go to the No King's website, or you can go to Indivisible, and they have a listing of locations you can choose from besides.
Yep. We hope to have a large rally. I think when was it, in June that we had?
Over 1,000. So
yeah, over 1,000.
So it should be.
Also, a week from tomorrow, we have the Oktoberfest. And again, Tatiana and Tom are in the back. If you haven't signed up, they'll help you sign up today. It's going to be fun. We're going to have some polka music. That's why we were playing polka music, to get you interested in it. Somebody said we'll teach you how, but I don't know that we have any teachers. Unless, are you going to be ready to teach us, Kate?
I am going to teach what I know.
She's going to teach what she knows, and I know how to polka. How many others know how to polka? All right, cool. So let's have fun doing that, and we've got a lot of good food lined up. So that's a week from tomorrow. Tomorrow we have another important meeting, and that one's at CPAC. We have a panel discussion going on, and it was advertised in the Green Valley News 3 times. The first 2 times they had the right time. The third time they had the wrong time. It is 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon in CPAC. Yes,
is that in the theater or that other room?
We're going to be in the theater. We expect to fill it up. The theater holds 203 people. The gentleman who's the moderator, Larry Bodine, a past president of LD18, he has a blog, and 5,000 people, and he invited them to join us as well. So I'd recommend you get there early. It really was an event that I thought would be for Saurorita and ourselves, but we might get a lot of people from Tucson. So if you want to be included, get there early. I recommend for sure. Wouldn't hurt. We got people showing up at 1 o'clock to help us set up. So, yes.
Will it be taped?
Yes, our friend Paul here, who tapes videotapes, it will be taped. So if we do have to turn people away, which is possible, Paul will have it ready for us, next week sometime?
Yeah,
We'll
3 or
sit.
4 days.
Okay, in 3 or 4 days. Good. So I think that's all I need to promote for upcoming events. But the sheet has a lot more. But let's move on. So before I introduce our speaker for today, I want to tell you a story about a teacher that helped my entire family in many ways. It begins with my mother. She was in high school when she was 16 years old, and she had a teacher by the name of Helen Eves. Helen Eves was only 4 years older than my mother. At that time, if you wanted to become a teacher, you went to a normal school. It was a 2-year program. So there she was, just a few years older than my mother, and she was teaching her, along with other students, of course. Well, eventually, you had to have a 4-year degree to teach. So Mrs. Eves went back to school for 2 more years. She came away with a 4-year degree. And then she became a teacher at the grade school in South Range, Wisconsin, where we lived, a small farming community. She became the 7th grade teacher. Not many years after she became our teacher, my oldest sister, Fran, had her as a teacher in the 7th grade. So there was Mom, now there's my sister Fran. 4 years later, my sister Lori also had her as a 7th grade teacher. 2 years later, my brother Bob also had her as his 7th grade teacher. So I showed up 4 years later and I said, "Hi, Mrs. Eves, I see you're still in the 7th grade." But she was a wonderful teacher, and she went back to school for her master's degree. Then after she achieved her master's degree, she became principal of the grade school. So 5 years later, when my younger brother Kurt went to school, he didn't have her as a 7th grade teacher, but he became familiar with her as a principal. But one of the things that she did, and I always looked forward to it, on Friday afternoon, she would pick 1 or maybe 2 grades in the school and get them together and read a portion of a book, just enough to kind of pique our interest. So come Monday morning, there was a line outside the library to be able to get the book, to finish the story that she had started, very cleverly. So we all think of her very fondly. She made the difference. She looked back at your teachers, and definitely she is one of the teachers that made a difference, from my mom to my youngest brother. And that's a span of 37 years. Yes, she was wonderful. So now Dr. Ruiz is here, going to tell us how she will continue to support the public schools so children will have the chance to have a Mrs. Eves in their lives. Dr. Ruiz?
Thank you so much, Sandy. Hello, Green Valley. It's great to be here on this beautiful rainy Saturday.
Yay, yes, yes.
That's a QR code to my website. And if you would like, it takes you to my website where you'll be able to sign my petition online. We also have petitions going around on paper. You're also able to make a donation there if you would like. Let me tell you, I love the story about Mrs. Eves because it talks about the impact that a single individual can have as an educator. Raise your hands. Do we have any retired educators or current educators in here? Look at all these hands. Thank you, first of all, for those years and years of service. Do we have any first-generation college students here? Thank you. Well, that is me as well. I am a first-generation college student, and I was chasing this dream of becoming a math teacher. I was raised in South Phoenix, which is very similar to South Tucson. My parents actually were raised in South Tucson and graduated from Pueblo High School. And then we ended up in the Phoenix area. But I was chasing this dream of becoming a math teacher because I wanted to make a difference in the lives of the students in my community. And that's exactly what I was privileged to be able to do for 35 years. Not quite as long as Mrs. Eves, but I have certainly had, so I taught my first year of teaching math was at the middle school, 7th grade math, 7th grade, at the school that I graduated from. And then I went on to teach at the high school, South Mountain High School, and then at South Mountain Community College. And I've had students that I had in that 7th grade class, I had them in high school, and then I had them also at the college. And I can say for 25 years teaching math in that community, I know I made a difference. I have students now who themselves are teachers, and I have some doctors, I have some engineers and nurses and lawyers. I have students that have gone on to do amazing things because that's the power of a teacher, first of all, and that's the power and the promise of public education. So after being a teacher, someone planted a seed. We all have mentors in our lives, and one of my mentors planted the seed that I should become a college president. And I thought, well, why not? Let's follow that path. And I was able to complete my career as the 8th president of Glendale Community College, which, by the way, is one of the largest colleges in the state of Arizona. Think about the power and the promise of public education. From first-generation college student from really humble beginnings to leading one of the largest colleges in the state of Arizona. And that's why I'm running, because we must protect public education for the 1 million students around Arizona. I don't know if you've had this experience. Did anybody in here fail retirement? I see those hands go up. I see your hands. I see you. Every great teacher knows this, right? I see you. Well, I failed retirement. And after retiring from GCC, I went to work for an education nonprofit statewide called Education Forward Arizona. And I would encourage you to go onto their website. They have some wonderful poll data. They just released their 4th poll that focuses on the empowerment scholarship accounts. I'm sure we'll get to that. And in my role as a senior vice president, chief advocacy officer for Education Forward, I'm tracking bills, I'm writing advocacy alerts, and Tom Horn had just been elected and ousted a wonderful superintendent, Kathy Hoffman, an educator right from the classroom. And I am so proud to share with you that I have her endorsement. She has endorsed me in my campaign. By the way, as has Adelita Grijalva, our soon-to-be Congresswoman, when they ever get around to that. So I'm honored to have Adelita's endorsement as well, along with many, many other elected officials here in Tucson. Nancy Gutierrez has also endorsed my campaign. We have school board members around the state as well. It's an honor and a privilege to have their trust and support, and my job is to earn your trust and support as well. But while working for Education Forward Arizona and listening to that hateful rhetoric out of that office, I won't say his name, and then, of course, what's happened in our federal government, I got very angry. I'm sure you all felt this anger just on the way driving in. The number of rifts that have happened in the Department of Education on Friday night, it's going to have a huge, huge impact across our country. I got very angry, and I thought, I never, ever would have considered running for a position. I never would have considered enter politics at this level. But I figured, I got nothing to lose here. I had a 35-year career, beautiful career, where I know I made a difference. I have nothing to lose, and believe that Arizona's students, our educators, our families have everything to gain when we put an educator back into this very important role. So talked it over with my husband and my family, and I said, let's do this, because you know what? Who's going to protect our kids? Who's going to protect our public schools? The individual whose job it is in the title, Superintendent of Public Instruction, is failing Arizona, is failing our students. and putting this chilling effect on our teachers statewide. And we are traveling the state. We're talking to teachers all over, from Page all the way, to Bisbee. And everything is the same. Number one, families are supportive and expect a strong public education system so that their children have an opportunity to succeed and reach their potential. And number two, teachers are frightened. They're afraid to talk, they're afraid to say the wrong thing in the classroom. It's putting this chilling effect on education. Combined with the fact that because we are last in the nation in per pupil funding, not only do our teachers not have the resources that they need to start the school year, but the facilities are quite literally falling apart. Falling apart. We were in Page, and in the gym, the children aren't allowed in the gym because the beams are cracked in the ceiling, and there's hydraulic jacks holding it up. Right? I was mortified that this is the state of our schools. In that same school, they still have swamp coolers. Now, we might have grown up with swamp coolers and thought that was okay, but let's be real. Climate change is real, and it's hotter. And up in Page, Arizona, they're trying to teach in swamp-cooled rooms. And if they do have air conditioning, the air conditioners are so old that if they need a replacement part, they don't even make that part any longer. So then they have to get a whole new air conditioning system. And when it was finally, a judge just recently ruled, the Arizona Superior Court has ruled that it is unconstitutional how the legislature has been funding capital needs for our state to the tune of like $2 billion they haven't funded. The first response of the legislators was to appeal that ruling, rather than to recognize our schools are suffering. Our children are not in safe environments. All of this to say, I need your support. Help me become the shield that our families, our children, our educators need, so that when the attacks come from the legislators, from federal government, that there's someone there who's going to advocate, someone there who's going to stand up and speak out, and I will be the loudest, annoying advocate at the state capitol. Thank you. So let me tell you what we're going to do. What I will do with your help when you get me elected, day one, the lawsuits that the current superintendent has against our schools in our state, he is suing our schools. Day one, those lawsuits go away. We are not suing our schools. We're not going to threaten our schools to withhold funds. We're not going to threaten to have the federal government come in and withhold resources, and he is doing this actively every day. Just yesterday, while we were down in Douglas and speaking with the superintendent there, we learned that there's some crazy new formula that's going to come out that's going to take additional monies away from the schools based on school attendance. So we already know that schools get funded by their attendance, but chronic absenteeism is a nationwide problem. And he's planning to attack our schools even more by taking additional monies away. Rather than saying chronic absenteeism is a problem, let's support the schools to find a solution. They need counselors, they need social workers, they need behavioral interventionists. There's real issues that our children are facing now. And the schools, as much as they want to help, they don't have the resources. So let's stop threatening and taking monies away. So day one, lawsuits go away. Day one also, let's support our schools. And as we know, the empowerment scholarship accounts that are in full force in Arizona, and I'll speak on the universal empowerment scholarship accounts. There's so much fraud, waste, and abuse that's happening. And thank goodness for the investigative reporting team who has unearthed this and has shared it. And now we know that our hard-earned taxpayer dollars are being abused and wasted on things like Legos or family vacations to San Diego, or even the most ridiculous, the diamond rings and the lingerie. Meanwhile, when school started, our parents are given a long list of supplies that you must provide. Crayons, pencils, paper, hand sanitizers, tissue, all of this long list of supplies. But parents can't afford that, so then teachers put out a wish list. So our teachers are starting the year without some basic necessities, all the while is to the tune of $124 million has already been racked up on those auto approval of anything under $2,000 in the empowerment scholarship accounts. Anything under $2,000 is automatically being approved, no questions asked. Oh, we'll come back and look at it later is what we're told. Come on. It's not gonna happen, and we're not gonna get that money back. So we would eliminate auto approvals. We would ensure that there's transparency for your taxpayer dollar. So we would create a dashboard so at least we would know, where is our money being spent? Wouldn't you like to know where your taxpayer dollars are going? We would make sure that we're transparent with the information. So we're asking for accountability and transparency, and those are two bad words that the legislature does not want to talk about. And yet, we know our public schools, they live under the umbrella of transparency and accountability. They are held to a much higher standard than any private schools, any home schools, or any micro schools. And by the way, a micro school is it's just a small group of parents who've come together so that their children will have another alternative. And zero accountability, zero oversight, zero transparency. That's why I'm running. As a lifelong educator, I can't sit silently by while our education system is dismantled. And I promise to work hard every single day to advocate, to find solutions, to work with our county superintendents, to work with our local superintendents, and so that our teachers and educators feel supported, so they can go about the important business of teaching our children and preparing them for that pipeline so that they can have success. Who knows? There's another college president in there somewhere. There's another maybe there's a United States president coming through. We need to support these kiddos. So I thank you for the opportunity to come and meet with you, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Here and now work down that way.
Yep, okay.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm kind of new to Arizona, so I don't know a lot about the education here. But from what I've learned, and my facts may not be correct, I'm really concerned about special education. My daughter was academically gifted, learning disabled, and I had to fight tooth and nail to get her services because she was academically gifted. And some of the things I've heard, I've been really appalled about the teachers not actually being educated in special education before they go into a classroom.
Well, and you're absolutely right. So first of all, thank you for fighting for your daughter. I just spoke with another parent just this morning. She said basically the same thing. Our schools, and I'm not sure what state you came from, but...
That was in North Carolina, but I've been living all over.
Okay, so Arizona is last in the nation in per pupil funding. When we are last in the nation, then we don't have the resources to make sure that the children have, the teachers have, one, the training that they need, two, the resources that they need to meet the needs of the students. When you're last in the nation, we're not attracting the best and the brightest into the classroom, and we're not retaining them. Now, there are some fabulous teachers, and I don't mean to imply that there aren't. There are fabulous teachers. The problem is we're not able to retain them. And many, many classrooms start the year without a permanent teacher. And if they do have a permanent teacher, they may not be trained in special education. There may not be enough resources. In fact, it was either Sierra Vista or Douglas, I think it was Sierra Vista. They had a fabulous special education teacher who got so frustrated with not only the politics, but the funding and everything else, and she left. And left a big hole in that school. We need to be able to attract and retain and make sure our teachers are trained in special education, in reading, in mathematics, so that our children aren't falling behind. Because when we're 49th in the nation in per pupil funding, that plays out in academics. And just recently, Consumer Reports ranked us at 50th overall. 50th. Right. So.
Do you know where we stand as far as salaries for teachers across the nation?
Towards the bottom.
Hi, my name's Arlene, and
You have my vote, that's for sure. I was wondering, is it just a pipe dream that we can make these school vouchers go away? Or do you think it could really happen?
I think it can happen, but here's what needs to happen before that. We need to elect a legislature that is willing to have this conversation.
Here, here.
And let's just be real. We need to elect Democratic legislators because the Democrats that are in there are working really, really hard. The Republican-led legislature, and those of you who've lived in Arizona a long time, lived here my whole life, 40, 50 years of Republican-led legislatures and have been underfunding education all this time. And so is it a pipe dream? You know, I like to dream aspirationally, right? Otherwise I would have never entered this race. So let's be aspirational. Yeah, let's dream, let's imagine a time when public schools are fully funded. And if there's going to be vouchers, then there's accountability and transparency around them. Because there are some cases of our special needs students who aren't getting what they need in the public schools. And I don't want to take away from our special needs students. But let's also be real. That lack of accountability and transparency is playing out in fraud, waste, and abuse with our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. So let's put a stop to that. The only way we can really accomplish that, though, Arlene, is if we elect Democratic legislators who are willing to take this on.
I had talked to Senator Gabaldon, and she is very much willing to get a bill passed. So
Yes.
if you wanted to reach out to her, very much she would enjoy your support. Who else had a question they wanted to ask?
You have my vote as well, Dr. Ruiz. And I admire your enthusiasm, and I agree with you, the state of education in Arizona is awful. A lot of it has to do with low teacher salaries, as you said, but there was a big article today in the Tucson newspaper about the salaries of superintendents and college presidents. And it's awful when you compare them to what the teachers are making. Do you have any ideas on how to change that?
Well, so the salaries are set by the school board. And so that's the local control that we don't want to take away. We don't want to take local control away from the elected school board members. And there is a whole process of it's very competitive to become a superintendent. But is there room for improvement? Yeah. And should we be having that conversation? Yes. Now I will also say, as the president of a community college, it is 24/7. It is 24/7. It is a demanding responsibility to oversee the education of the students who trust us and to come in. Now, does that mean there's not room for? There's always room for improvement. But let's never try to take away the local control of the school board and have that conversation with them.
I think curriculum and salaries are set by the local schools, so ours is continental. So please get involved with the school board or Rita School Board. So please get involved. Voice your opinion there. Somebody else, Tony?
No.
Please use the mic because we want to hear more.
I would like very much to know what your position is on vouchers and how you would counteract the misuse of them.
So when we're talking about the ESA is the voucher. Where'd Tony go? Okay. So the Empowerment Scholarship Account is the vouchers. That's what we're talking about. And the voucher, so remember this, please. Twice, Arizona voters had voted down universal vouchers. Twice. Hands down. Governor Ducey, on his way out the door, he decided to disregard the voice of our voters and signed into law universal vouchers. That was in the fall of 22. And opened it up wide. Because before that, we had always had vouchers. And they were for our special needs students, and they were for, there was a few other categories.
Charter schools?
No, charter schools are public. Yeah, so we'll talk about charter schools as well. So I think I am opposed to those universal vouchers. And I don't think, I am opposed to universal vouchers. I'm opposed to the lack of transparency, lack of accountability, lack of oversight. What scares me the most as an educator, we don't know who's teaching the children. We don't know what their academic progress is. We don't know what curriculum they're using. And keep in mind that every single public schools, and charter schools are considered public even though it's a totally different funding model and it's a business, at least you can track academic progress. What we found at Education Forward Arizona is there's a myth that charter schools are better than public schools. Because when you look academically, with a few exceptions of some of the very high-performing, like basis schools and other some high-performing charter schools who don't let every child in and don't provide resources for our special needs students, because public schools do. Public schools welcome everybody. But the myth is that charter schools are better, and that's not true. The data doesn't support that. So, universal ESA vouchers, empowerment scholarship account vouchers, that's the problem. Zero transparency, zero accountability, zero oversight. We don't know who's teaching our children and what they're learning. And if that doesn't frighten all of us, like, frightens me, keeps me up.
I actually have 3 issues. The first one is my daughter-in-law was a speech therapist up until about a year ago. She indicated that public schools were doing IEPs for private schools. The private schools would send the student to the local public school district to do the IEP at great expense to the taxpayers in that public school system, and then they get registered as a private school.
Yeah.
That's a big issue. I don't know how you would prevent that. But also, I wonder if you could give a short history on English speaking issues. I know that for decades has been a huge problem in the state of Arizona. Maybe the history of that and what your proposal is for helping kids speak fluent English in the classroom. And then also, I owned a staffing company, and when I sold it about 3 years ago, about 40% of my business was substitute teachers. I started sending, we were kind of a clearinghouse. We started with charter schools and then got about 5 public school district contracts, and then started working with private schools. So I'm familiar with all of them. But I know that before I sold the business, there was such a teacher shortage that they were lowering the standards for teachers in the classroom, so that all they needed was a high school degree. Can you address that?
Oh, yeah.
What's that status right now?
Okay, so I'll start with the first one. So in case you're wondering what an IEP is, it's an individualized education plan. It's for children with special needs so they can be assessed, and that they can, and by law, by federal law, we must be providing.
Is that Title IX?
No, that's totally different. Yeah, so an IEP is for students with special needs, individualized education plan. And yes, the private schools are sending the children to the public schools because they know they will get assessed, and then use that information at the private school. So yes, big problem, at great expense. You're absolutely right. The second issue with English speaking, I'm going to talk about dual language programs. So dual language programs are relatively new to Arizona. A dual language program, other states have had these, Utah, Washington State, Oregon, back east. It's an opportunity for children to learn to speak English and become proficient without keeping that child back and preventing academic progress. What happens when you have a pull-out program, or, I don't speak English, so I'm going to be sent over here to this other classroom for 4 hours a day, and I'm going to learn English. In the meantime, I'm falling behind in math and reading and history and everything else. A dual language program allows that child to learn in their language so they continue to have academic progress while also learning English. And here's a couple of models that work really, really well. They call it the 50-50 model. One day will be all in English, and the next day will be all in Spanish. And that way the child, continues to learn. But here's what we're learning about in Arizona. Oh, let me talk about this for a second. The ability to become proficient is much quicker for students who are in these programs around our country. So this is new to Arizona. What we're also finding is that many, many monolingual English speakers Their parents want them in these dual language programs because they are becoming proficient and fluent in another language. This is an example of a school not too far from me in South Phoenix. They have a dual language program. 90% of the children in this program are monolingual English, whose parents value learning another language. And so I met children who Spanish is their third language that they speak. The young lady in particular, she speaks Tagalog, which is, she's Filipino. So she speaks that at home, she speaks English, and now she speaks Spanish. Up in Flagstaff, they have a trilingual program where you can either learn to speak Dene, the Navajo language, or you can speak Spanish. And so it's a beautiful, and it's academically rigorous. What they're finding is when you're using that part of your brain, that language acquisition part, it actually sparks your ability to continue to learn at higher rates. And so the dual language programs are things that it's a program that we must protect. Those are the schools that are being sued, by the way, from Tom Horn. He's suing the schools because they're offering dual language programs. And before the dual language programs, they were we were segregating our students. You didn't speak English, go over there. We were like the only state that was segregating our kiddos. The third issue with substitutes. So did you know, this just came out, they're calling it now the teacher apprenticeship program. People are giggling. This is horrifying to me, right, as an educator. Because, to become a certified educator, you get this beautiful story of first the normal school for 2 years, and then they required a 4-year degree. Well, now, genius over there called it a apprenticeship program, and all you need is a high school diploma or a GED. Yep. And
Ours were all 4-year. Our substitutes all had bachelor's.
Thank you, because you held a standard.
Teachers in the classrooms, many of them only have high school.
And that's, because we're not attracting teachers and because we need to put, an adult in the classroom. And so they're calling these emergency certifications or alternative certifications. But this apprenticeship program really has me worried. And my first thought was I'm going to reach out to the superintendents of these schools or the districts where they're planning to put these apprentices and ask, how is this going to work? Because there's a level of content knowledge that you must have. And it's not just a level of content knowledge. I think as our educators in here, we learned about the psychology of students. We learned about pedagogy. We learned about methodology. We learned the history of education. There's a lot involved in being a teacher, not just can you maintain control of your class. So I think it's a big problem.
I mean, I could go teach a class with my dyslexia, the way it is, and get accepted and paid. You don't want me. Shucks. Anybody else have a question? Where was it? Archie.
I learned the history of education and that it started in the 1890s to have an educated populace to vote. What do you think about what's happening now, and are we going back to the 1870s, 50s, or whatever as far as education goes?
Oh, gosh. Well, we know this. Education is the foundation of our democracy. Education is economic development. And the whole idea that we would dismantle the Department of Education, to what end? I think we can all figure out what to that end is. It's about control. It's about keeping people uneducated and unaware. And then also segregating our students. Those that can, they will always have access to education through the voucher. We know that $440 million right now is being stockpiled. And those who can't, oh well, you'll be in a crumbling school with a hydraulic lift to hold up the gym. And that is not okay. So I think we all know the answer to that. It is the foundation of our democracy.
I'd really like to know when our legislatures in Arizona decided they did not want to educate public school children. Was it when schools were integrated? Is that when this whole movement has started, or have they been this way from the very beginning?
That's a great question. I don't know if we can target a specific date or time, but what we do know, that education in Arizona has been consistently underfunded for 40, 50 years. And that move to privatize our education, I think that's a relatively new thing. Some people will say it started with the charter schools back in the 80s or 90s. The first attempt to siphon money away in a different way. But this whole recent voucher movement is not unique to Arizona. This is a nationwide movement. The Trump administration has said they want to have every state to have vouchers. And so now we're creating this strata of, we have those who can and afford it and those who cannot. And what blows my mind is not only is education economic development, but look how rapidly the workforce has shifted in just the last few years. There are jobs that exist today that never existed before. We have companies coming in. As the president of a community college, I regularly have this conversation with industry leaders. We're building a new plant in the West Valley where Glendale's located. And Terry, I need you to make sure I have an educated workforce. And I wanted to say, how is it you're coming here? Because our workforce, our pipeline is not filled. And we're not willing to fund it. And so I need our industry leaders to stand up and say, you are impacting my bottom line because we don't have a prepared workforce. You might have heard the phrase H3, high skill, high wage, high demand jobs. H3. Those jobs, they're here, but we don't have a pipeline ready for that. Versus the opposite end, low skill. Gee, guess who's in the low skill, low wage, low demand jobs? People of color, right? And those jobs are going to go away. They will be automated. What's going to happen to that community? To individuals who are in those low skill, low wage jobs? We have to find a way to make sure that we're preparing them so they can be part of this pipeline and have access to those H3 jobs, high skill, high wage, high demand. It's nuttiness, isn't it? So I don't know if there's a specific date or time, but boy, the last few years of privatization sure feels like it's on steroids.
You know, the legislature is sabotaging the Democrats by redistricting. So now we're grouped, we're a mix, but with Cerrito we're blue, and now we're with all the ranchers out in, Cochise County, and so to elect a Democrat legislature is doubly difficult because of the redistricting.
It will be.
They're taking it away. They're taking away the Democrats' power, and so that's going to make it doubly hard.
So one of the arguments we might be able to use to convince a rational-minded Republican is
Oxymoron.
Eileen said that I didn't. I have met, in my travels around the state, I have met many who are like really adamant. They're like, I'm Republican, I'm not MAGA. And they make this really clear distinction. I've also met Republicans who are self-professed conservative Republicans who said to me, Terry, I can't sign your petition because I'm not Democrat or independent, but I'm going to vote for you. And that makes me, I'm really glad to hear that because I can't win with just our Democrats. But I think that the common ground here, number one, is our children and their future. Number two, do we really want our taxpayer dollars to pay for somebody else's vacation? And that's where we can come back and have this conversation. Don't let yourself get distracted by the culture wars. Let's come back and talk about our kids can't read. Our kids can't do math. 39% of third graders right now are proficient in reading. 39%. And you can drill down and you can find out exactly what your grade is. And that's not an attack on our students or our teachers. That's a direct result of not having the funding. 27% of our 8th graders aren't proficient in math. A former math teacher here, that just kills me. Let's talk about that. Our kids aren't prepared for this rapidly changing world. We can disagree about a lot of stuff, but we should all agree on our kids.
I want to thank you for going down to the 5 counties in RLD because you've spoken to many of them. Education is probably the second most important issue on most of the LD 19 candidates that are running. And so the small towns in our area, Graham, Cochise, Graham, Greenlee, and even in Pima, the small towns wrap around the education system because Friday Night Lights, all that is the center focus of that town. So we need to have a strong education system, not only for the students that are growing up there, but also for the society that is growing up there. So.
In rural communities, your school is your heartbeat of your community.
Hi, I'm wondering, one of the things for you to get elected or any Democrat is going to be your voter base. And Hispanics, Latinos are traditionally voting Republican now. I'm wanting to know what your thoughts on that and how are we going to end up getting the Latino vote back?
We were just having this conversation on the drive over here. Oftentimes, the Latino population is forgotten. Rural communities are forgotten, right? And so we're making a concerted effort to reach every voter in the state by hitting every county. We're going to do canvassing that's going to canvass the Latino community specifically, again, because they're ignored and forgotten. And this is just a side, like the icing on the cake for me. I would be the first Latina superintendent in the state of Arizona. That's not why I'm running. Someone pointed that out to me. I'm like, oh, But I think we can rally the community. Your voice matters. Su voto es su voz. Your voice matters, your vote matters. And let's rally. And let's get not only me elected, let's re-elect, Katie Hobbs. Let's re-elect Governor Mays by more than the 280 votes that she won by. Let's keep Secretary Fuentes. Because these individuals are working hard to protect all of Arizona. And I would love to work alongside. And Nick Mansour, who's running for state treasurer, wow, can you imagine if we had a Democrat in every single one of those executive positions? Arizona would be stronger. Well, I think...
Got the numbers.
Yes, well, there has been a shift. There was a shift. We know this in the 2024 election. Many Latinos shifted away from the Democratic Party. I think that way. I think they're regretting that now. I think many people are regretting that now. And so we need to bring them back.
Can you tell me why they would have shifted?
Well, they believe the lies. Many people believe the lies. And so I think we need to, all of us, need to embrace and welcome and go find those individuals who sat out the election, those individuals who changed parties. Many people even went independent. Let's bring them back into the Democratic fold because it's the Democrats. History shows us that all of the good things that our country has is because of the Democrats and the legislation that has passed. So I think this is where, you talk to your neighbors, and I know it's hard right now. We got to talk to our neighbors and welcome them back into the fold.
I just have I'm on the board with Mago Day Middle School up on 6th Avenue with Cameron Taylor as our headmaster, and I just very proud of their success rate and the way that all of our children are bilingual. And we have 87 kids there that do have a 96% high graduation rate. And Youth on Their Own does a wonderful job too, because they are in the mid 80% compared to the state, to Pima County rate. But just keep that in mind. I know they're not charter, they're not Title I, they don't do vouchers. It's total nonprofit, and they do a great job. And the teachers are like a village. They have 2 teachers in every classroom.
Can you imagine if we had that in public schools? Wow, that would be fabulous. And thank you for sharing that.
Where do you place the value of arts in the public school system? The arts.
Yes, so I'm like, well, okay, so it breaks my heart when we don't have an art teacher or a music teacher. And many, many schools they can't afford to have an art teacher, a music teacher, or, but yet we know that vouchers are being spent on gymnastics and all kinds of other things. We need to have the arts in the school. So as a woman in STEM, I love that now they talk about STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Because it all goes together. The creativity plays out in many ways. So yes, I believe there should be an art and a music teacher in every single school.
Yeah, I'm new to Arizona too, and I have two questions. One is, what can you tell me about the status of book banning in our public schools in Arizona? And two, I recently read that at the federal level, the Department of Education is now partnering with Turning Point USA to infiltrate public schools. And is there what you can tell me about that?
So let's talk about book banning first. First of all, I trust our librarians. I trust our librarians to only select age-appropriate books for our students. I don't believe, this is Terry's opinion, I don't believe any book should be banned because I want our kids reading. Remember, only 39% of our kids are proficient. I want our kids to read, and I trust our librarians to only select age-appropriate books. My cousin's wife, who they own a restaurant right here in Green Valley, and she was a librarian in Texas, in a little community outside of Austin. And she was attacked, not physically, but she was accused of grooming students and accused of all these things that we hear the librarians of. And she ended up leaving the profession and works now for a large computer company. But what she also is doing is she started a nonprofit to open up libraries around the world in communities that need a library. So I trust, back to your question about banned books, I trust our school board to have a process where if a book wants to be challenged, and there's a process for that. But I also expect that the librarians be supported and not allow what happened to my cousin to happen here in Arizona. The other question, remind me what it was.
Turning Point.
Oh, Turning Point. Oh my gosh.
Christian Academy,
Yeah.
Turning Point, yeah.
So they want to have this whole curriculum, Turning Point curriculum, and the Trump administration is pushing it that we should use this in our schools. Well, first of all, that's illegal. Federal government cannot mandate what curriculum must be used. But again, we see this happening even here on our website, on the Arizona Department of Education. There's a push out for Prager University, which PragerU is not, first of all, it's not a university. So PragerU curriculum teaches things like slavery wasn't that bad. That would come down, I'm sorry, that would come down day one as well. Because why would we be promoting a curriculum that is false and is dangerous for our students? And I would stand as a shield against that. I would stand as a shield if the federal government said this is the curriculum we're going to use, and not in Arizona because number one, that's illegal. And second of all, thank goodness for Chris Mays because I'm sure she'd be involved in a lawsuit.
She's got a number of lawsuits going on with the Department of Education now to get their funding back, so yeah.
Yes, she does, thank goodness.
One more question. Karen.
Okay, I hear a rumor that they're going to stop teaching cursive. Most of our historic documents are all in cursive, including the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Are we not crippling these kids?
So I have two kiddos right now in college. They can't read my handwriting. So they haven't learned cursive, and I don't know what to say. Again, local school board decision, not something mandated at the superintendent's office.
I would tell you this, the Continental School District is a nonpartisan race, but you should attend because they are very much a conservative group that are on that board. So please get involved with your local school districts. I will add this, the last thing is all the literature going out in LD 19 where we can will go out in bilingual in dual language.
Thank you.
Will be printed.
Thank you. So one more thing, if I could promote. I saw some great t-shirts back there, but we also have Dr. Ruiz for Arizona shirts available for $20 if you'd like to help support. We can make this all happen together by signing my petition, sharing that out with your friends and your neighbors, and help support our campaign as we travel the state. A small donation, a large donation, whatever is comfortable for you goes a long way in this fight to protect public education for the 1 million kids around the state of Arizona. And I thank you for this opportunity to come and speak to Green Valley. I'll be happy to come back again.
Very, very exciting, and Mrs. Eaves would vote for you.